Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you again, and again, here live from Ellucian Live 2022 from the Colorado Convention Center. On my right here, I have my co-founder, partner, Elvin Freitas. Say hi, Elvin.
Hi, Elvin.
Hi, Elvin. He rarely comes on the mic, always behind the scenes, but never often seen. He's being seen here at Ellucian Live. Lots going on, people filtering everywhere. And we're trying to find the best guest that we can. And we have found someone. He's here. He is going to give us incredible insight like you've never heard before. Of course, no pressure on him now. Let me bring him in properly here. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Phill Miller. He is Managing Director of Open LMS. Phill, what's happening?
Well, what's happening is you've set the bar incredibly high, and I'm pretty worried that I'm going to disappoint all your listeners. So I'm going to have to work really hard to overcome that.
False.
You're going to be great. We already know you're going to be great. Since you came up, we've been recording this whole time. We're going to turn it into an episode.
Okay, very, very good.
Even all the swear words that we were exchanging. No, there
were no swear words.
We were no.
Stop!
Anyway, Phill, we first of all, let's level set. Tell the audience about Open LMS. What do you guys do? How do you do it?
Yeah, so Open LMS is the world's largest provider of open source learning management system products, primarily focused around Moodle. The Moodle community is the most important LMS community in the world, but often it doesn't act like it because it's so distributed and so fragmented.
Right.
And through the years, we have, both through acquisition and organic growth, we've built a client base of about 1,700 hosted Moodle clients.
Amazing.
Wow, I love your sound effects.
Yeah, try.
That range from some of the largest universities in the world, like the University of New South Wales in Australia, the University of Barcelona, Louisiana State University, community colleges like the North Carolina Community College System, but also a lot of corporations, nonprofits, associations that use our system to train their employees or their members. So we're excited. We're relatively new. We used to be a part of Blackboard, but we separated from Blackboard. Side note here, we announced the separation from Blackboard, or the acquisition of Open LMS from Blackboard, on March 1st, 2020.
Okay.
And the deal closed on April 1st, 2020. So you might remember that in the middle
What happened during that time? I don't remember anything.
The world changed.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was. So we were forming a new company in the middle of a pandemic, and you
didn't even know it.
And we didn't even know it. And of course, the EdTech world blew up at that time in some very complicated ways, but also in a way that, I think EdTech really stood up and made a huge difference in the pandemic. And I'm incredibly proud of our team, as well as companies like Ellucian, all the other companies that really stepped up and helped universities, community colleges, and corporations deal with that. So that's who we are. That's who we want to be. We think open source technologies like Moodle are the right value proposition for the vast majority of universities and community colleges around the world, for a variety of reasons that, this is not a sales pitch. We don't want to go there now, but it's an important part of the ecosystem.
Work. Yeah, and you guys do Open LMS EDU. You have Open LMS for work.
Yep.
Professional development in general and upskilling, reskilling, it's like a huge deal, right? It's a huge deal. It's the question of it's funny because that dichotomy of work and EDU is the degree, no degree. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And you're kind of like in the middle of everything.
Those worlds are blending so much, though, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the talk about competency-based education, people that are launching new certificate programs, universities that are selling their training directly to corporations using their brand name. I mean, so while we do officially have two brands, Open LMS EDU, Open LMS Work, we're actually seeing a lot of blending and a lot of overlap there, where a lot of our university clients are turning on features that we thought would only be used for corporations, and a lot of corporations are turning on features that we thought would only be used for education. So
now that's called repurposing a content when you're the business owner, right?
Yeah, that's right. And actually we've got an interesting thing. We first of all, I'm so excited about being here at Ellucian Live, partially because it's just so great to see people, I had coffee with somebody this morning, and do you remember having coffee with somebody?
No, but what are you going to be having tonight with somebody?
I don't know. We're supposed to we have a dinner, some of us that are here.
Cheers!
So it'll be,
fun.
So this is real stuff, but we are, last year we hosted our first ever Open LMS users conference. Of course, we did it virtually.
Mm-hmm.
This year, our intent, assuming that the world doesn't go crazy, we're going to go face to face in October. And one of the things that we're really, contemplating right now is how do we create a conference that's about learning, where we can bring universities, community colleges, and some of the biggest corporations in the world that also use us, and have meaningful conversations about learning that cross from higher education, K-12, corporate learning, associations, professional development. Those are important questions, and we got to do a great job of that.
You're a bridge. You're a bridge. You're the conversational bridge, right?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's an interesting conversation, but I think it is going to be, I think it's a great challenge for us to take on and see how we can create real value for people. So,
okay. So let's just assume somebody's sitting at home right now, they're listening to the EdUp experience, because what else could you possibly want to do with your time, just for the record? And somebody goes, what open source technology? What is he talking about? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. So open source means that although it's software, the code itself is freely available to download and use and run yourself. The reason that that's so important for our clients, and especially for universities, is that it really allows them to control their own destiny. You completely avoid vendor lock-in. You get more value for your money. When a lot of people, when they're evaluating software purchases, think about the total cost of ownership. One of the things that people often neglect to think about is the total cost of exit. So what happens in 5 years when you want to change platforms? Suddenly you've got a big cost to move. In an open source platform, one of the reasons that we provide such great service to our clients is that we know that our clients could take the code, download it, and run it themselves. So if we don't do a great job of supporting them, they're not going to be our clients for very long, and we're not going to be in business for very long. And so that's what we do. And so when you think about that as a university and you say, I want to control my destiny, I don't want to be locked into to any specific vendor. I want to be able to control my future. That means they're going to get a better total cost of ownership with open source software, generally speaking, than they would with a proprietary software platform.
So how does that look? Okay, you've got a proprietary software platform. Besides let's say a university says, we're going to change. We're going to go to an Open LMS. How does that engagement look? They just come to you and say, hey, look, we're thinking about switching. You provide a level of technology service and customer service. What's the length? Talk to me through that whole process. I know it's individual probably for every business, but how does that engagement work?
So there's a couple of different flavors that takes, right? So first of all, remember that, again, I said before, Moodle is the most important LMS in the world, although we don't talk about it very much.
Yeah.
65% of all universities in the world use Moodle today.
Now, really? Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Elvin, did you know that?
No, I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Now, in North America, that number is more like 25%.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's international.
Blackboard and Canvas have been very important in this market, but in many countries, take a Spain or a France, every university uses Moodle. So you've got many clients that are using a Moodle today, but they've been self-hosting. They've got some servers in the basement under some guy's desk. And guess what? A pandemic comes along and your traffic quadruples, and suddenly the guy can't buy servers fast enough, doesn't know how to support teachers that haven't used it before. And so these clients come to us and say, just take my Moodle, put it in the cloud, guarantee my uptime, give me an SLA, answer my tickets, upgrade me to the latest version. Don't let any open source security issues happen. And we do all of that for them. And then there are the clients that are using a Blackboard or a Canvas that say, hey, we want to switch to a truly open source technology. We want to control our destiny. And there we migrate them. And it's not complicated. We take all of their courses, we import them, we connect them to Banner with our plugin to Banner so that their enrollments come in. It's, LMSs are, many of them have the same functionality. It's important, and our technology does a lot of great stuff, but it's really not a huge process to migrate. I mean, the hardest part is not the technological part. It's the instructors that have their courses that need to get retrained. I've been uploading
higher ed inertia, as we like to call it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been uploading my PowerPoints to Blackboard for the last 20 years. Yep. And now how do I do that in Open LMS, right? And so we provide training courses, and even for before the pandemic, and hopefully soon, we'll send trainers to your campus and host training sessions that people can come and we'll help them get their courses set up. So we try to make it as seamless as possible. It is not any transition of technology, any transition at all causes some level of disruption. We try to make it as seamless as possible. And we've done it for thousands of clients, right? I mean,
what's the harder part, the transition of the technology or the transition of hearts and minds?
listen, technology is easy. Computers only do what you tell them to do. People never do what you tell. I have four kids, 6-year-old triplets and an 8-year-old.
6-year-old triplets?
Yeah, 6-year-old triplets and an 8-year-old. So
hold on tight. This is gonna be a bumpy ride.
That's actually an amazingly good sound effect for my life.
Well, me too. That's why I have it.
Yeah. So organizational issues are always. Let me give you an example of that. I was talking to one of our clients just a couple of months after the lockdown started, and this is a client that's been using Moodle for 10 plus years, and she said to me, she's like, "Listen, Phill, I just have to tell you my experiences from the last few weeks." She's like, we've been using Moodle for 10 years. Every Thursday at noon for the last 5-10 years, we've offered Moodle training, how to teach online in Moodle. We've never had more than 8 people show up for that course. Last week, the second week of the pandemic, April 2020, we had 74 people show up for this session, right?
That's Level Up. That's your
that
level
is
up.
the Level Up. Yeah,
I actually have one that says Level Up. Check it out.
So all
Level Up.
All of a sudden, the world changed and people needed. And so it's not the technological change. It is the adoption. It is the engagement. Those are the things that really matter and make a difference for institutions. I mean, one of my colleagues, a guy named Brad Cook, who is my vice president of higher ed, he says to me all the time, he's like, "Listen, if I want to be a great tennis player, it's not going to happen because I buy a new tennis racket, right? Like there's no, I could buy the $1,000 tennis racket and it's not going to help my game at all. And so it's not buying a new tennis racket. It's really about getting your people to adopt it. Now, part of our value proposition is because we're open source, because we provide more value to money, what if you could get an LMS cheaper and then repurpose some of that money to hire another instructional designer or to hire another trainer? Like, that's a real conversation that hopefully CIOs or directors of academic technology are having, is how do we get more help for my instructors to be successful online?
But Phill, if I have a proprietary LMS, I can get the data that I need. I can get all the student insights. I'm so used to getting this information. If I move to open source, am I going to be able to get all the data that I need?
More than that, you own that data. You know the schema for that data. The schema for that data is public. There's open APIs. You can write your own. You can write plugins.
Me? No,
yeah.
I can't write my own. But most people can.
Somebody can.
Yeah,
write their
Alvin
own, right?
can.
Alvin, can you write?
No, he can't.
Write a Moodle plugin that helps. It's actually the opposite of that. I mean, open source by definition, you control your data in a way that is not possible in a proprietary solution. It's the reason that most of the biggest technologies in the world are in some way based on open source, right? And so things like PHP and WordPress, these are all open source technologies, and like Moodle, right? I mean, an open source technology that controls 65% of the world's higher education institutions. When
people hear open source, because it happens all the time, and you hear somebody talk about open source and they go, I don't want something that's open. We need to protect student data. We need a closed system where, because it's the technology terms and then the layman's terms that are different. But people hear something like open source and they think that their social security numbers of their students are going to be stolen in 2 seconds. Cybersecurity is a real issue in any LMS and any house of student data. Is that an issue you guys are talking about all the time at open source? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but again, I'll just state it for the record here. Open source tends to actually be more secure than proprietary because you have more people looking at it, more people testing vulnerabilities. When they find an issue, it tends to be reported and fixed faster.
Yep.
So it tends to be better. I mean, for us at Open LMS, again, this is a big part of our value proposition. We're currently pursuing our ISO 27001 certification, and we'll be the first Moodle provider to do that, because we care deeply about that. And that's part of the value add, is how can we make sure that clients feel confident that their data is protected, but again, you can go look at tracker.moodle.org, where the open source community, you can look at security issues that have been reported, how they get resolved. There are thousands and thousands of people working on this all the time, as opposed to a proprietary system where you submit a ticket, say, hey, I think there's a security bug, and then it's a black box. What happens after that? Like, everything that happens in an open source community is by definition open, right? So I think it's just it is a paradigm shift, though. And I think you're right. There's a terminology problem. Open source is really about the code,
right?
it's not about the data or about your particular implementation of that platform, of that code.
It's happened to me before, and I'm like, yeah, no, we're going to think about this open source system, but and somebody goes, you're going to have to go to legal and talk about that, because we're not trying to do something that's open. I go, no, I don't think you understand what we're talking about here. So there's a terminology, but higher ed's always does that, right? We always do that.
But the thing that is really that's frustrating about that is higher education, its legacy is open. I mean, open research, sharing
Open
your
access.
findings, open access, building on the shoulders of people that have done research before you. And so I do actually believe there is a philosophical alignment between the vision and mission of higher education and open source software. And I think that often gets neglected or overlooked because people don't understand that's the whole idea. I mean, we have many of our university clients actually help us write code and help us write plugins to make Moodle better, which is great. We love that, right?
The more the merrier.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So you're here to Ellucian Live. How's it going for you so far? What are your takeaways? How do you like the conference? Give us your once over.
Well, I mean, other than the fact that it is just amazing to be back at a conference again. I mean, it is the last 2 years. This is, I think, for us, maybe our third conference in the last 2 years, and that all of the, I think we did our first one, and I'm looking over at my marketing person. We did one in November. We did our first conference in Las Vegas, which was a corporate training exhibition, and that was weird because if you remember,
was that a correct or incorrect? Okay.
We that was right in the middle of Omicron, and it was like they were still trying to figure out do we require vaccinations. You wore a wristband that was either red, yellow, or green if you wanted to shake hands or not shake hands.
And we're also going to need a pronunciation check on Omicron. We're going to go. I think it's Omicron.
What is it?
Omicron. I don't know if it's Omicron.
Omicron. I don't know.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, so
I don't know how
to recover from that. So we've now done 3 conferences. It's starting to feel real again, and I think this conference is the one where, I mean, they've done a great job with the health and safety side of things, which is phenomenal, and that's important. But it, like, shaking people's hands, sitting down and having a coffee, up there, I think they were just serving beignets, like, did I say that one right?
I'm not sure, but it sounds good. But
something fried bread coated in sugar.
We don't ever leave this booth, so
go upstairs. There's beignets up there. It feels good to have those conversations. One of the things, and this is not just for higher ed or for conferences, everybody talks about how everybody just wants to work from home all the time now, and there is amazing things that happen around the flexibility of that. My ability to get my laundry done while I work, is there. But people forget how much happens in hallway conversations, in the
ideation of
unplanned moments in hallways, and I think conferences are a part of that. Companies that figure out how to do offices right, where maybe it's not required, but they create meaningful times for people to get together. And have those ad hoc moments. So I love that part of it. We've gotten to speak with a bunch of clients, existing clients, prospects, people that are using Moodle that want to know how we partner with Ellucian, how do we get data over from Banner, and so we're able to have those conversations. It's really been fun, and it's also been fun. The side part I mentioned, we started this company in the middle of the pandemic. I got to meet 4 of our employees that I've never met face to face before, right? Which was really exciting. My vice president of engineering actually lives here in Denver.
Nice.
And I had lunch with him today. Like we've been working for us since September, October of last year. Never met him face to face, and we had lunch today. It was lovely. Machete tacos.
Yeah, we had some fish, what did we have? Sushi fish tacos yesterday. It's good stuff.
I've never found a taco that I don't like. I mean, if we wanted to have a separate podcast about tacos,
you're going to lead that. We'll be the guests.
Fair enough. If we could bring tacos to that and try them in real time, I don't know if people would listen, but I would do it.
I feel like somebody would listen, and I feel like we'd have a good time doing it. So we'd like to end our episodes, Phil, with the same 2 questions to every guest. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready?
I can be ready.
I know you're ready. Number 1, what did we not say about Open LMS that you want to say? This is your self-plug away. I do enough of that on these episodes. Elvin knows I plug my own stuff, but that's because I can, and I'm giving you the mic now. You can plug away. And 2, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Wow, two completely different questions. So on what people should know about Open LMS, I think there's a couple. There's two things that I'll mention, and I know you said one, but I'm going to go ahead and take some dramatic liberty here. First of all, it is that we're actually a big player in the market. People don't realize, because we're fairly new and we separated from Blackboard, and they don't realize that we're a fairly
Massive.
big company, 1,700 clients. Like we're hosting more LMS clients than almost any other LMS provider in the world, and I don't think people realize that. So that's one, and that includes hundreds of people and budgets and conferences and things that small companies couldn't do. And so that's one thing. The second thing is that really for us, because we're based on open source technology, it's not just about the product. Our secret sauce is amazing service and support and making sure that you're successful in using the platform.
Love that.
We're not gonna preach at you about all the great features that we're gonna build for you, going to show you. We do have roadmap presentations, but half of our roadmap presentation is talking about how we're going to provide better service to you, instead of just, hey, don't worry, this cool feature that you wanted is coming next year.
Right.
Where is higher ed going? Oh,
You might know the answer better than most.
I think there's going to be, we're seeing just such dramatic change. You're going to continue to see consolidation of higher ed, because with enrollments changing in the cliff that everybody's talking about, which I think we're at the very front end of now, that world is going to change. I think you're going to see the real challenge that I don't think people have fully grasped, especially coming out of Corona. It was happening before, but coronavirus accelerated it massively. Is you're no longer going to be just competing with your local university. I grew up in Indiana, and I went to Ball State University. Great university. I love the university, but their audience has always been, if you draw a circle 50 or 60 miles around Muncie, Indiana, that is where they draw from. Well, now those people in that 50 or 60 mile radius can go anywhere in the world, right? You want to go to Hong Kong University? Great. And so these universities have to figure out, what is their niche? What is the secret sauce? What is the thing that I can do that is going to draw people in here, not just because they happen to live in my area? And I don't think that universities and community colleges have fully grasped that they need to, just like other companies, they need to have a value proposition that drives them. And so
for the customer,
which is the student, right? And and that's going to be the thing that I think really drives the ones that are successful are going to figure that out. I mean, listen, Harvard, Stanford, even Indiana University, like those ones are going to be around. They have the
self-sustaining endowment,
self-sustaining, whatever those things are. But all the other ones, they've got to decide, what are we going to be great at that is going to draw people? And then how do I extrapolate that to say the reverse of that is also true? The kid in Hong Kong that wants to be, telecommunications is Ball State's calling card. Just if any of you telecom students out there want to come to Ball State, I'll do a little bit of plug for my university there. But what would make a student in Hong Kong say, hey, I could go to Hong Kong University, but I might want to go to Ball State University because they've got, that is their niche, and that's what I want to do. And so I think that's going to be a driver. How do I create the secret sauce for my university that's really going to separate me? It doesn't have to be, it can't be on everything. It's got to be on a handful of things that you do exceptionally well.
I love that. You got to learn what your secret sauce is. I will tell you the Open LMS knows its secret sauce. I know that Phill Miller, managing director of Open LMS, has a secret sauce, and it's being on a microphone. Phill, great job today.
Hey,
we appreciate having you on.
That was fun. Thanks for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp.